Hey guys, this is Comic Uno and Comic Frontline, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 219. In this show, I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. So let's get started. I kind of have a lighter week this week. It was about 16 books. So what was number 16? What was worst pick of the week? And that was X-Men Gold issue 17. Just not a lot, and I'm going to be saying this a lot this week, but not a lot of substance here. I feel like they jump way too much to different characters that you don't really get a full scope of the story at all, and the villains are kind of boring. Artwork, very blotchy, not very detailed at all, so that's why it made worst pick of the week for me. Just show you some of the artwork there. Just, again, a lot of blotchy scenes, heavy inking. Now, I couldn't really enjoy the pencils, but yes, I gave X-Men Gold issue 17 2 stars, and that is number 16. Now, moving on to number 15, which is Green Lanterns issue 36. Been really disappointed with this lately. I feel like Tim Seeley hasn't really found his voice on this book, and it's disappointing because I really enjoyed Sam Humphrey's run on this book. Really grown to enjoy Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz's characters, but here they're fighting an evil lawyer, and it's just boring, and there's not much substance here. There's just not a lot to go on, and I feel like the balance between Earth life and space life is just not here like it was in the previous, previous run with Sam Humphries. So Green Lanterns issue 36 has solid artwork, but the story wasn't really there for me, so I'm going to give that 2 stars, and that is number 15. Now moving on to number 14, which is Superman, issue 36. With this issue, there's definitely some fun moments between Lois, Clark, and John fighting against the people of Apocalypse. But this is, and I didn't even know until I read the last page, this is a Lex Luthor story arc of all things, and I don't feel like Lex was really in this arc. And by the end of the issue, it's Lex saying, "I'm done with Superman," and he kind of rips the shield in the end of the issue. I'll show you that. Or like burns the shield. And it's all because of the things that happen in Apocalypse, but I feel like there wasn't a big moment besides, I guess, leaving him, that really makes Lex Luthor do this. I feel like there could have been more motivation behind it. I think there just could have been more Lex in this story arc, and the Apocalypse backdrop kind of just drowns what's the actual story, which is Lex Luthor. Also, not a big fan of this art style. I know it's, one of the artists that, or one of the rotating artists on this book, but I always feel like it's really dark. Everyone looks like they're wearing eyeliner. Just not my favorite style. So Superman issue 36 gets 2.5 stars. Now moving on to number 13, another book that's been kind of disappointing throughout their whole run, and that is Spider-Man issue 235. This issue, it opens up, and half the issues, the Sinister Six, or, this version of the Sinister Six, on a heist trying to get something, and I guess this is trying to bring a rapport with the team and develop one, but it just doesn't. There's no chemistry between this team. The only two characters that truly have motive against Miles as Spider-Man is Bombshell's mother and, of course, his uncle, and I kind of wish it was just about them. I feel like it would be more interesting than just using the name of Sinister Six. And then you do get a semi-interesting story plot where Miles has this new power, and we don't really know why, but it comes so late into the issue that's 100% an afterthought, and Miles is hardly in this issue, sadly. So just not really enjoying this arc, even though it does have a ton of potentials, the Sinister Six, but I feel like it's just kind of a rushed ending as Brian Michael Bendis is going into DC Comics. So Spider-Man issue 235 gets 2.5 stars, and that was number 14, I believe. Number 13, actually. So now we're moving on to number 12, which is the Mighty Crusaders issue 1 by Dark Circle / Archie Comics. And I tried this one out because I read The Shield, and I liked it for the most part, even though it was very delayed. I did like it. It was kind of a darker storyline, but this is kind of the Avengers Silver Age type comic book. So if you enjoy old school Avengers, pick this up. Now, my problem with this is that I only knew S.H.I.E.L.D., and I feel like this is very much a storyline. If you know these characters, you'll truly enjoy it. It's not not very new reader friendly to really feel attached to these characters at all. It's very kind of a shallow storyline, which is why I referenced Silver Age kind of Avengers. But if you're looking for kind of a fun storyline, you know these characters, I recommend it. It is fun, but it didn't give me, as someone who's never read these characters for the most part, a hook to get the next issue. So I gave that issue 3 stars. Now moving on to number 11, which is the DC Holiday Special 2017 issue 1. Now I won't go into every storyline, but most of them were good. There's really no bad artwork in the book, which is good because there's so many short stories. Sometimes you get some bad artwork or bad storylines, but for the most part, it's good. I think it covers most of the DC universe at this point. But what made this issue worth picking up for me was definitely the Deathstroke storyline. I really enjoyed kind of the past of Adeline and the kids, and of course Slade and what their Christmas ended up looking like. I really enjoyed that. And also Green Arrow. If you are an old school Green Arrow fan, this 100% brought the vibe of like the early 2000 Green Arrow, and I love that version of Green Arrow, so I really liked Black Canary and Green Arrow's back and forth that I don't really get to see in the current Green Arrow title, which is why I also dropped the current Green Arrow title. So I gave this one 3 stars. Now moving on to number 10, which is Batman White Knight issue 3. This is just a slower burn issue, but still a fun issue. Fun, but it's a dark issue. But I really enjoy how Jack / Joker is becoming the hero of Gotham and trying to weasel his way in there, and then Batman is becoming the villain. That's the premise of this book. But it's also the key players kind of trying to choose a side, because the big moment in this issue is that Alfred dies. So now another reason for Batman to kind of go all dark and not have his moral compass. So it's this moment between Dick Grayson and Barbara where you do get to see there's a continuity change, that Jason was the first Robin instead of Dick Grayson. And we get to see Dick and Barbara talking, and Barbara's like, we need to step up. It's our job to put Batman in his place. And I really like that. You know, one thing I love about this story in general is how much the Bat family is important. And of course the inclusion of Barbara Gordon. But I really like that. And just really getting the full scope of Gotham. Again, the key players of Gotham. There's also, I guess, this interesting story of the other Harley, who was the replacement Harley, becoming like this Joker-like character. I don't know where that's gonna go, but I only knew that because of an article I read. I don't know if you really got that with this issue fully, but still, you know, there's good character moments throughout the issue. Definitely worth picking up. Maybe not the best of the series, but it's a good kind of piece to the puzzle of this bigger picture of Batman White Knight issue 3. I'm sorry, Batman White Knight in general. So I give this 3.5 stars, and that was number, let me see what number that was. That was number 10. So now we're moving on to number 9, which is Venom Inc. Alpha, which was a solid opening. I will say the moments I enjoyed the most personally was definitely Flash. I really liked him becoming this anti-Venom was really cool. The way he interacted with Peter, we got to see Mania again. So if you enjoyed Cullen Bunn's Venom especially, I think that embraced that aspect of that series into this storyline. Then Eddie Brock stuff, I think you probably need to read Venom to fully enjoy. I'm not reading Venom right now, but I am picking up Venom for this arc because it's tying into Amazing Spider-Man, and I do want to just see Flash and Peter, but I feel like you probably get more out of that if you've been reading it. And the Amazing Spider-Man stuff was good with Flash, but kind of fillerish when it wasn't with Flash. But overall, artwork was really well done by Stegman, especially the Venom aspect, and the story was a pretty good setup. So I'm going to give it a Venom Inc. Alpha issue 1 3.5 stars. Now moving on to number 8, which is Archie issue 26. I will say this is a bit of a weaker issue for Archie, but Archie's been so good, so weaker is still a good comic. And that's only because it kind of falls into some cliches of the love triangle kind of being the center of the storyline, and a lot of romance drama, misunderstandings of Veronica overhearing Betty and Archie talking, and Veronica thinks that Betty and Archie are getting back together. But in hindsight, Archie is kind of falling back in love with Betty, and I do love the moment that, you know, it does kind of put the love triangle on its head, where Veronica's like, I just want you two to be happy, so if you guys are happy, you guys are my best friends, go for it. And I was shocked by that because this is Veronica, and it shows how Mark Waid has really made Veronica grow as a character throughout these 26 issues. Definitely the best part of the issue. But then you go to the cliffhanger where it's like Veronica and Archie's like, well, you know, are we still going out? And then Dilton and Betty is like, are we going out? And I do like the Dilton storyline of him gaining the confidence to ask Betty out. But yeah, so they're dancing around cliches in this issue, and that's the weaker aspect of it. Art is still pretty simplistic, but there are good character moments spread throughout this issue to make this issue worth picking up. So I'm going to give Archie issue 26 3.5 stars, and that's number 8. Now moving on to number 7, which is Deathstroke issue 26. Pretty good issue here where we get to see the Defiance team trying to find Deathstroke. There's some good character moments there. And I did like the twist of finding out the villain who's captured Deathstroke was actually Jericho/Joey's lover from the beginning of the series, so I thought that was pretty cool, and it makes the villain have a bit more substance in the storyline. And yeah, it's just fun to kind of get to see the back and forth of some of these characters, like Adeline just hating Rose so much, and I love there's this line, it's like, oh, I hate her, and you know, the Wintergrave saying, or I think it's Wintergrave, Wintergreen, Wintergrave, whatever his name is, saying, oh, I love her, and then Tanya is saying, I have to pee. So there's some good humor throughout the issue, good action overall. Not the best Deathstroke issue, but definitely worth picking up if you've been enjoying this series. So I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 6, which is Injustice 2, issue 15. I enjoyed this issue. It's not my favorite portion of this arc, but I did enjoy it. I do like Supergirl kind of being naive and going into this scenario of the Amazons, and you see kind of the different views of how they see Wonder Woman, because she is a prisoner, and obviously this is a very different Wonder Woman with Injustice compared to you know, our regular Wonder Woman. But yeah, it's a pretty good issue. I do like the Batman side a little bit more, and the artwork is a bit thinner compared to the more detailed we get with the Batman storylines, but still worth picking up, better than the annual that I disliked a lot. But Injustice 2 issue 15 gets 3.5 stars. Moving on to we're up to number 5. I'm really happy to see this a lot higher than it has been, and that's Harley and Ivy Meet Betty and Veronica, issue 3. I didn't really love the first 2 issues. I was super excited for this story because I really enjoyed these characters, and I thought the personalities would clash really in an interesting way, obviously. But with the first 2 issues, you didn't really get to see that. But with this issue, you finally do. You get to see how they live each other's lives as they switch bodies. Betty and Veronica as Poison Ivy and Harley are like trying to be supervillains, and it's not really working out for them. And they find out, weirdly enough, that Reggie is the new Joker. I thought that was kind of a weird ending. But then on the flip side, we get to see Harley and Ivy totally ruining Betty and Veronica's social status, and everyone thinks they're totally weird, that they're doing all these random flips, and Veronica's really good at, you know, plant botany. She's getting 8++ in that class, so it's like they're doing weird things throughout Riverdale High, and it's like, what's going on with them? So I enjoyed this. I think they finally got their personalities captured in this miniseries and utilizing it in a cool way. There are times in the artwork, though, I feel like transitions to different panels could be better. Like, there's this moment in the beginning of the issue where Betty is doing all these flips, and it's like, oh cool, I have all these like abilities pretty much, but I feel like the way they angle it, you can't really enjoy those moments. So just those things for the artwork I think definitely could be worked on, and that was from the first issue that still kind of has a lot of hiccups with this series. So, but overall definitely a lot better than what we've been getting, and an actual enjoyable issue. So I'm going to give this 4 stars for the big improvement for this book, and that was number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Witchblade issue 1. So Witchblade I've been really looking forward to. I've caught up with Witchblade over the past couple of years, and I do enjoy the series. I haven't read every issue of the series, but read a good amount, and I was really excited to see the new take. I did read Switch, the one that was previously before this, but got delayed. Something happened with it, and I guess it got canceled. But now we're on to the new Witchblade, and artwork is so gorgeous, really emotional, really captures the emotional aspect of this story. So really well done with that. And I feel like the writer does a really good job at introducing this new Witchblade character and making us care from this issue 1. We find out that she was a reporter in Afghanistan. It looks like she was captured. She has PTSD. She even says, like, I've been to a psych ward. I've done all the, you know, she's definitely had a hard past, and it's referenced here. My only nitpick of this issue is that some of it is told out of order, because we're in Alex's head for most of it, and she has like a missing 24 hours because of the Witchblade, and I kind of wish that could have been told better. I had to read it twice to kind of figure out where all the story was, but I love the character so much, and it definitely got me hooked right from the first page to want to read more, and that was definitely the important aspect of this issue, and hopefully the structure will work out as the series goes on. But Witchblade issue 1 gets 4 stars and as number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is Hawkeye issue 13. And damn, this was just fun. If you enjoy Kate Bishop in a regular issue, it's even more fun with her interaction with Clint. And we actually get to see a tie-in with Generations. Eden returns, we see that she has a target on Clint's back, and she actually is going to help Kate find her mother. Now, we don't know Eden's actual plans, and that's kind of this interesting thing of, like, Kate found family with Clint, but does that overweigh the family she already had with her mother and her actual family, which has obviously been a huge theme of this series. So I really enjoyed it. If you love the fun from Hawkeye, it's double the fun here. Great action and a really good setup for what's to come. So Hawkeye issue 13 gets a solid 4 stars. And this cover is pretty much embraces what this comic was. Alright, moving on to number 2, which is Batman issue 36. Batman's at it again. I really enjoyed this one. I guess my only nitpick I will say is that from the start is the artwork is definitely a lot lighter, and there's times where I feel like the penciling could have been a little better, the way they shaded it. But overall, it's light, it's fun, and this issue is about Batman not telling Clark that he's engaged. Clark's waiting for the announcement, saying, when's he gonna tell me, when's he gonna tell me? And it's cool because it's Batman saying, well, he's Superman, like, you know, he's kind of better than me. And then Superman's like, he's Batman, he's kind of better than me. So it's them, like, tiptoeing with each other, but then their partner is saying, talk to him, talk to him. So it's like Catwoman telling Batman, talk to Clark, and then, you know, same thing with Lois. And I love the moment where Lois meets Catwoman. It's like, nice to meet you, and she tries shaking her hand. And very excited for date night in the next issue. So really fun setup, and yeah, you know, it's not something that's like, oh, the villain is important. The villain's literally throwaway here. It just connects Superman and Batman meeting with each other. And once again, it's just fun. Is it a bit repetitive? Yeah, it takes a little while for them to meet up, but it introduces a really cool storyline. So Batman issue 36 gets 4 stars. Moving on to number 1, which was an obvious one for me this week, and that was Paper Girls issue 18, of course. I love this series. And, you know, really good balance between unraveling the mystery and giving us character development. We find out that these futuristic people that we met this arc is actually Worry, or Worry, I think it is, Worry, who was the child from the previous arc, and the mother, or at least we could connect that's probably the mother. So we've met these characters before, and everything's kind of connecting, which was very interesting, and why they would want to go up against the Paper Girls at all. Because they did save him, so what's the beef about? So interesting mystery here. But the 2 characters that really shine are Mac and Tiffany. So Tiffany finds out that she's married to this, you know, goth guy, and she ends up becoming like him. They elope, and she's like, what's going on? This isn't me. How did I end up like this? And she's totally confused, but you see that Chris is willing to listen to Tiffany and say, all right, you're a time traveler. I got you. Let's figure this out. And maybe Tiffany's understanding why maybe she would, you know, date him. That he's a good person. So again, will do anything for Tiffany. So I really enjoyed that aspect of her just like looking her future straight in the eye and not understanding how you could change in life as you grow up, which is a big part of this series, is a coming of age book, going into adulthood. That is the main point of this comic book. And then we have Mac, who obviously from the revelation of last issue, finding out that KJ is a lesbian, she can't believe it and literally thinks that KJ is a different person and has been body snatched. And she's like, this is not KJ. What's going on? And obviously it's just the denial of her own sexual identity, but it's really well done and subtle, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where that arc ends up going. I think Brian K. Vaughan and Cliff Chiang has just handled that very well, really handling all the character arcs very well. So, good issue. Again, good issue to develop the mystery, the characters, and that's exactly what you want with every Paper Girls issue. So, Paper Girls issue 18 gets 4.5 stars, and that's my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno Comic Frontline. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, in the description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.